Bengals finally fixed their biggest issue. Welcome into Bengals Breakdown. I am your host, Stone Shields. That is exactly what we're going to be talking about here on today's show. Thanks so much for joining us here this afternoon. But a lot of our channels here at Chat Sports have done this video. And for a lot of different teams, when you talk about biggest problem, right, a lot of teams would say, the offensive line or maybe the linebackers, the pass rush, the DBs, guarding guys. Well, though I was looking at the Bengals defense, and I go, well, there's really not one particular area that you can pick. So the Bengals' biggest problem that we're going to be talking about here on today's show is simply the entirety of the defense. There might be some people out there that say you're crazy, it's the offensive line. I would disagree. Obviously, that needs to get a lot better, but based on what your defense did last year, I think it's pretty clear, in my opinion, that the defense is this team's biggest problem. The Bengals made some changes here along their entirety of their defense. Of course, who's leading the charge defensively as well. And before we fully dive in, I just want to say I don't know for certain if the Bengals have fixed their biggest problem, but they definitely are going to be better than what they were last year. They've made some changes. We'll break down all those changes here on today's show, so make sure you stick around throughout the entirety of today's video. Little heads up, I am doing some solo producing here on today's show, so if you see me look down, just trying to do multiple things here at once as we progress. Before we get into that, make sure you guys hit that sub button if you haven't done so already. It's youtube.com/BengalsTV. We are rapidly approaching 20,000 subscribers. We are trying to get there before the end of the month of July. I have a couple of weeks to go in order to make that happen. It's going to be an incredible milestone for us here at the channel. Once we hit that mark, I think by the time this video goes out, we'll have 19.5, so we'll be about 500 away from making that happen. So help us out. Try to get as many subscribers here on this video alone. youtube.com/BengalsTV. Got you covered all off-season long, all training camp long, and, of course, all regular season long as well. Before we fully dive in, as you guys know, I am an eye test guy. I think a lot of people get bogged down with the numbers, and they say, oh, well, the numbers say this. Numbers are very valuable, and they are very important, and they certainly can tell a story. But they can't tell the entirety of the story. So I was going to sit there and break down all the PFF grades for this defense, and then I kind of got to it, and I was like, well, I don't think these grades necessarily really tell the full story with what Cincinnati was able to do defensively. If you remember, there were some games last year, the Giants game, they only gave up 7, right? Both Cleveland games, it was 14-6. Like, there was games where they didn't give up a ton of points, so they didn't grade out necessarily as bad as they should have, in my opinion, as far as their defense goes. But there are going to be some numbers that we take a look at. First off, opponent points per game. That's a pretty basic number. Look where Cincinnati is at, giving up 25.5 points per game. And look at the company here. Obviously, the Niners kind of had an off year. That's an exception. But you don't want to be in the company of teams like the Las Vegas Raiders, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Cleveland Browns. If you want to have Super Bowl aspirations, that's what you should have when you have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, giving up way too many points per game. And as I mentioned, you had a couple of games where you hardly weren't giving up any points at all. So, the 40 burger that you gave up in Baltimore, another high 30s game in Baltimore, the Charger game, I believe that was high 30s there as well. The Eagles scored almost 40 points on you. So, the list kind of goes on and on. Pittsburgh had a big day at the office. Even the Tennessee Titans scored a lot of points on you in that game when Joe Burrow, of course, on Netflix was very frustrated with how the offense played, but the defense didn't play very well in that game as well, with just a dumpster fire at the quarterback position. So that's opponent points per game. And also another valuable stat, it's a very simple stat that I think we all can understand, is how many touchdowns are you giving up per game as well. Cincinnati right there tied for 28th with the Cleveland Browns there, giving up over 3 touchdowns per game on average. It's not getting it done, right? Even, Bengals defenses of the past that had some success, they were always kind of that bend but don't break defense where, they might give up a lot of yards, but they'll force you into kicking field goals. No, that wasn't the case last year. Teams were scoring touchdowns. And, again, you don't want to be in company with teams like the Cleveland Browns, the Tennessee Titans. The Cowboys obviously were really bad defensively, but the Carolina Panthers, 3.6 is just, that's otherworldly bad for Carolina. But you're at the bottom of this list, and really, those are the two simplest things you can break down. You can talk numbers all day long. You need to give up less points, and in doing so, that means less touchdowns, something that Cincinnati obviously needs to drastically improve. What's your confidence level in the Bengals defense going into 2025? Sound off for us in the comments. I want to know what you guys think. The Bengals have made a lot of changes. We're going to detail all those here on today's show. Where are you at as far as the Bengals defense goes? 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. I think there's 3 big main changes that have been made. So we'll kind of break this down in two parts. We'll go through these three changes, and then we'll also break down what the Cincinnati Bengals are banking on as far as improvements from guys that are on the roster. First change is obvious. Al Golden is in. Lou Anarumo is out. I've spoken about this a lot here on the channel. I absolutely love Lou Anarumo and what he was able to do for this football team. Clearly, Joe Burrow loves him as well, for all you guys that watched the Netflix documentary. But it was time. It was time to move on. You have too many great players, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow. You are a Super Bowl aspiring team here over these next couple of years, and the defense, you had 2 really bad years in a row. Can't happen. Change need to be made. Zac Taylor made the tough call. I'm really pumped about Al Golden leading the charge for this football team. Next main change, TJ Slaton's in, Sheldon Rankins is out. If anybody has an issue with this, I really can't help you. Because Sheldon Rankins, that tenure with Cincinnati, yeah, he had the illness that was very mysterious that his team kept under wraps, but it cost him most of the year. He only played a handful of games, also had the hamstring injury early in the year. He basically did nothing for you out there at that nose tackle spot. TJ Slaton's my favorite free agent that you picked up in free agency. I'm really excited about that, and that's a no-brainer upgrade. Absolutely no-brainer. There's no way that he can be worse than Sheldon Rankins was for you this past year. Really, the only reason to kind of have frustration with how that situation played out is that DJ Reader got less money than you paid Sheldon Rankins. And Reader obviously was great when he was here. So if you would have just paid Reader, then maybe you wouldn't even be in this spot. But regardless, TJ Slaton is in. That is a big change, and that is a very, very good thing for Cincinnati. And the last big change is also another guy that I got a lot of love and respect for, but it was just time. Germaine Pratt is out, and now there's several new guys that are going to be in. 2 draft picks that Al Golden oversaw specifically there, that linebacker position. Demetrius Knight Jr., Barrett Carter, and obviously Oren Burks bringing him in from the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. The linebacker room is going to look totally different. There is major change that took place there. And really, overall, those are kind of the 3 main things that I look at and say, okay, major change was made here defensively. In my opinion, all 3 of these things are going to help them be a better defense. I think ultimately this is going to fix their problem defensively. Is it all the way going to fix? No, I shouldn't say fix. It's going to improve their problems defensively. I think all 3 of these things needed to happen, and I think all 3 set them up for more success in 2025. Around the corner, we will talk about what Cincinnati is banking on as a football team, but do want to give a shout-out to our friends over at Fanatics. Let you guys know that these Bengals T-shirt hoodies are out. They're on sale now. You can go get them. Best part about them is they're also knocked down in price. I believe they're $20-ish off what they were originally marked at, and it is quite the deal. And obviously it's hot here in Cincinnati in July, but they've got the hood. It's thin material, yet really quality material. And if you go to training camp or something like that, you can throw the hood up, perhaps shield you a little bit from the sun. But it's a great shirt. It's super cool. And I personally think it works well for kind of this training camp-ish area of the season. So we'll put that link in the comment section and the description of today's show, chatsports.com/Bengals Hoodie T-Shirt/. Now, here's what they're banking on. They're banking on Joseph Ossai to produce. Obviously, they brought him back on a 1-year deal, I believe $7.5 million. I was up here at the end of the year saying, yep, you need to move on from Joseph Ossai. Duke Tobin, Zac Taylor, they say not so fast. We want to bring him back. He's got to produce. You got question marks with Hendrickson and Stewart, as we detailed here on the show. He needs to step up. We'll get to another guy at that same spot that needs to step up as well. But Joseph Ossai, they saw those late in the year sacks last year, and they said, yeah, we'll keep you around. We'll give you a good paycheck for a year. Got to produce. That's simple. Bengals are also banking on a healthy Dax Hill. And I just want to come out and get ahead of this right now. If Dax Hill is either not able to go by the time the season rolls around, which is not expected to be the case because he's supposed to be ready to go for training camp. That's the goal. But if he is not out there for this football team this year, they're in deep trouble. Dax Hill's a great player. There's a reason they picked up his 5th-year option. And he was playing great football before he got hurt early in the year. So they're banking on him being healthy and being able to contribute for him because the DB room without Dax Hill, bit of a tough scene. They're also banking on Myles Murphy arriving, right? They drafted him a couple of years ago in 2023 in the first round. What has he done since being drafted? Nothing is basically the best way you can describe it. No sacks last year. And, Al Golden kind of recognizing, hey, it's now or never, seemingly, with Myles Murphy. They are banking on him showing up because think about this. If you have Hendrickson and Stewart, let's say worst case, you don't have either one of those come week 1. And if Ossai and Murphy can't produce, you're cooked as far as getting pressure on the quarterback. Every single quarterback is going to have all day to throw if that is the case. one of these two guys at least has to step up. But the Bengals are banking on both of these guys being quality and being relatively productive in 2025. And also probably kind of buried the lead a little bit here, arguably the most important part. They're banking on their safeties to improve, which, again, I believe is a mistake. I think, the Geno Stone experiment, you gave him a 2-year deal. Ultimately, it certainly didn't work out in year one. Cincinnati is kind of rolling the dice and saying, well, yeah, that was year one. It was an off year. He'll get back to being Geno Stone next year. I think it was bad enough to cut ties. That's not what Cincinnati opted to do, but obviously they did save some money as he restructured his contract. But the safeties need to get better. It starts with him, but Jordan Battle has to be better as well. They have not, to this point, added any new safeties. They're literally running it back with the same room, a room that was very bad in 2024. So in conclusion, they're going to be better. This Bengals defense will be better. They won't be as bad as they were last year. I can guarantee you that under the leadership of Al Golden. I'm not going to call it fixed, right? The question posed in the headline of this video was it fixed? I'm not going to call it fixed, but it certainly was improved. My biggest question is, were there enough changes made? All right, we detailed really the 3 main changes, but I would have liked to see 1 or 2 more. Ultimately, that didn't happen, but in retrospect, we will see exactly what goes on with this football team. But I do think they will be better defensively. How much better? That, of course, remains to be seen.